Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that emits constant dying noises on a regular basis. I am Matt,
Gah.
aka Matt Fondude, and I'm here with my gawing co host, James,
I'm James, aka James04E.
aka the Gaw Master.
Yes.
James, can you give me a Left 4 Dead 2 OG sound effect if you had one? What would it be?
Uh, probably be like, oh, or something like that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Mine would be like, oh, I think it would be like that.
Isn't that
It
just
would be kind of like
Bills?
Bill. It's no Bill's is more like, oh no, kind of like that. I took inspiration from Bill. Anyway, we're talking about Left 4 Dead 2 today. In case you couldn't tell, uh,
Yes.
we played Left 4 Dead 2. Technically, we played Left 4 Dead 1 maps in Left 4 Dead 2 because there's
Yes.
a difference there. Valve, the publisher of the game, who we were trying to look this up before the podcast, by the way, who actually made the game, and we kind of found this relevant information here.
Yeah. Basically, so obviously Left 4 Dead 1 is made by Turtle Rock Studios, but Turtle Rock Studios between 2008 and 2010 went by Valve South, and they're not credited on Left 4 Dead 2. It just says Valve.
Yeah, and we did like zero research. We literally did 1 minute of googling before the podcast episode. All I've heard is Turtle Rock Studios being thrown around because of Back for Blood, the newer like
Yes.
spiritual successor, weird oddity, bloodstained ritual of the night styled like
Back
we
4
want to
Dead
we want our
3.
property back if you're not doing anything with it game. Yeah,
Back
Back for
4 Dead
Dead.
3.
Well, the Left 4 Dead 2 was released in November 17th of 2009, which is crazy to me. Like
Yeah, that is
that's both
almost
far away
exactly
and
13 years
recent.
ago.
Hmm. Yeah. Do we introduce the topic? I mean, do we introduce the podcast concept still? I mean, we I think we were. I don't remember if we keep doing that, but basically, the Have You Ever Played podcast, we're going to be talking about a game and chunks. Today's chunk is Left 4 Dead 2, the first Left 4 Dead 1 campaigns. All right, now
Yes.
that we're out of the botched intro, which is like ever getting more botched, let's just start talking about the video game. James, what was your opinion? Actually, James, what was your history with Left 4 Dead 2? Because it was
Yeah,
your pick.
when I was younger, I played it quite a bit. God, I don't even know how many hours I put into it. It had to have been hundreds. But I just remember I would play randomly with like campaigns with people, like a bunch of randoms. Have some like old Steam friends from the game. Then also I just loved the mods. I could turn people into the mods in that game are great. You can turn people into anime girls. You can have really weird music playing while you're healing. Like pretty much anything you would want in the game. There's some sort of mod for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember when I was playing before this playthrough, I had to uninstall 200 mods because I made a mod pack called like Left for a Reason, and it was just like trying to make the game as disgusting as possible. Just like
Oh
every
no.
single character model replaced, every single enemy replaced, music, every weapon has a different skin. I was running around as like Deadpool fighting Ninja Turtles and Shrek, and it was just like a nightmare fuel. It's basically what Fortnite looks like now, pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like with games like Left 4 Dead, there's always that moment where you realize, wait, I might have done a little too much modding, and like your
Hmm.
game's just unrecognizable from the base game.
It's funny in this current playthrough, we actually streamed the game together, which is available on the Matt Fondude YouTube channel. But you're getting my
Yes.
perspective, which is vanilla experience, and I know you were running some mods still, even though like just some like minor mods.
Yeah, it was mostly just like gun skins and stuff like that.
Hmm. I've gone so like I have gone so further the opposite of mod use in recent years, where
Hmm.
it's like I want the most vanilla experience possible at first, at least. Uh, Even so much as going to being like games like Skyrim or Fallout, just being like, you know what, no mods. Maybe mods to make the game function like a Fallout. You have to install a mod for Fallout New Vegas to make it use more RAM than like 4 gigabytes or something.
Hmm.
because it's just like insane. Those games are horribly broken.
Yeah,
But yeah, otherwise not so much.
I don't know how you do it. It's like playing some games without mods is like having a Twitch chat with 1,000 plus people without mods.
Oh, I mean, fair. That's pretty good.
Un
That's pretty apt.
Unusable.
Yeah, but I'll throw it back to you though. Like, yeah, those 1,000 plus people also could be the mods that are just in your chat, where you're just like, now I have 1,000 things. Like, oh god, I'm overwhelmed. Like, I don't know what's going on. Or
Yeah, that is
actually,
true.
it's like having a Twitch chat with 1,000 mods instead of and zero users.
1,000 mods and 0 users, and they can
Yeah.
time each other out.
Oh yeah, basically. And then it's like, why did
Oh
this just
man,
crash? I don't know.
man,
This is not a mod cast. Maybe we could have a
yeah,
full modcast
a
podcast
modcast.
episode. Yeah, Left for Dead. So this was your pick this week,
Yes.
and is there any like I know you played it a lot, but is there a specific reason you chose to revisit this game?
I think that it is a game that it involves lots of the fundamentals of like teamwork and like mutual goodwill. Um, with lots of the special infected, if they attack you, you literally need somebody else to help you because if they don't do anything, you're just gonna die slowly and you'll not have a good time.
Hmm.
So while I would consider it like a relatively casual game, it does still do a lot to encourage collaboration and like actually not hating the people you're playing with. Which
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
a great point.
you'd be surprised how many games don't do that.
Yeah, it's one of the earlier examples of a game that I think I played a lot of as well, just because oh we have four friends, or if you want to delve into the versus mode,
Hmm.
even with even more friends, it's like oh we have four friends, let's just play Left 4 Dead 2 because we can get a game going and just kind of infinitely replay the game. But
Yeah,
yeah, I remember doing that a lot.
yeah. Imagine it'd be a great like party night game or something like that.
Hmm. I did definitely. I hit a point. I think I have 90 hours in Left 4 Dead 2, which is not that much, but
Hmm.
I hit a point where I said to myself, "Yeah, I'm good with Left 4 Dead 2. I will never play this again. I'm fine. I've played it enough." And yeah, I guess we should get into our experiences upon replaying the game. But
Hmm.
just to start us off, we played the first campaign. We played the Left 4 Dead 1 campaign, which is in Left 4 Dead 2. Uh, and we played a bunch of those. I believe there's seven, including there's two DLC, so there's seven
Yeah,
in total. Which I didn't even realize those were DLC.
yeah. I knew the sacrifice was DLC, but the last stand was we'll talk about it later.
Hmm. Yeah, unlike the characters in Left 4 Dead 2 campaign or the Left 4 Dead 1 campaign in Left 4 Dead 2 who do not talk to each other like at all, which kind of took me by surprise because I spent most
Hmm.
of my time playing the Left 4 Dead 2 campaigns and there was a big difference in what I felt from between Left 4 Dead 2's campaigns and Left 4 Dead 2's Left 4 Dead 1 campaigns. This is going to be very confusing.
Yeah, very.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, but oh yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah, but I do think there is something to be said about that. It could be Valve's involvement. Maybe they wanted some more, not just memorable characters, but like memorable lines in there. Because I know the original Left 4 Dead characters are very memorable because they're sort of archetypes, I would say. Whereas the Left 4 Dead 2 characters are a little bit more, especially with Ellis, a little bit more out there. So they really need like voice lines and interactions to really make you remember them more.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the Left 4 Dead 1 character designs are really strong.
Hmm.
Um I I I don't think I really ever played the Left 4 Dead 1 maps all that often, and upon playing them fully through on this repeat, I think I was missing a lot of the voice lines between the characters, which happens a lot in the Left 4 Dead 2 campaigns where your character will have like a quip or a dialogue with one of the other characters in the game, and that happens a lot. And they're
Hmm.
kind of random each time you play the game, which adds some replay value. That happened maybe like one or two times in each campaign in Left 4 Dead
Yeah.
1, which I thought was kind of lacking.
Yeah, I think what also felt weird is there were just times where there were lots of times where it was just silent, and I I guess funnily enough, it kind of left it up to us to actually interact with each other and like talk about stuff instead of just sitting and staring at the game while nobody's talking and like maybe we're in between zombie hordes.
Oh yeah, or yelling at random people who
Yeah.
join our lobby, which I forgot how fun it was to play Valve style like multiplayer game with your horrible bit crushed microphone that's like built into their system, where you just can yell at people.
Yeah.
Which this game still has a pretty active online community for a game that's so old. Like there's still people playing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I think the game is the funny thing about it is it's almost a roguelike in some aspects, but it's not quite there. So when thinking about replayability, there's only so much variance that's there, but I think that the base gameplay is just so much fun to lots of people, and the need for cooperation in general is just such a like people get a high off of that kind of stuff. So I can understand why people would keep coming back to it, but I also understand why some people might burn out of it a little quicker than they expect.
hmm Now, I think we should go through all the different maps or all the different campaigns in a second.
Hmm.
And I mean, in the case of Left 4 Dead 1, here's a little bit of a spoiler. I kind of found all of the campaigns to be kind of samey. It almost feels as
Yeah.
though the campaigns in Left 4 Dead 1 are one giant campaign, as opposed to 2, which we'll get to later, which each campaign feels kind of self contained and more involved.
Hmm. I
I don't know if you felt that way.
Yeah, I also felt that in two that there was a continuing there was a bit more of a continuing story in the sense like in the first level where you escape with the car, in the second level the cars run out of gas and now you have to find another way to like get around. Whereas I feel like these levels you got dropped in a little bit more even, and I think the environments weren't as diverse because of that. So I think the levels did mesh together a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, it kind of became this like a little monotonous, and there wasn't that much. Each area kind of was like it felt more grounded than later Left 4 Dead 2 levels. Like you're just in a parking lot or you're at a
Yeah.
hospital, and it's not like it makes sense for the setting. I think Left 4 Dead 1 was probably overall more serious in tone, although I never actually played Left 4 Dead 1. I own it, but I haven't played Left 4 Dead 1 since I owned 2.
Hmm.
And I think there's probably something to be said about playing the original Left 4 Dead 1 rather than the level pack that's in 2. Maybe that would change my opinion on it.
Hmm. Something I also noticed like about the sort of tonal differences between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Now that I really think about it, the special infected in Left 4 Dead 2 look kind of wonky. Like the jockey, the spitter, and the charger. Like
Yeah,
I almost feel like these are meant to be memed. Like the charger, it's very obvious.
yeah, I think there's a bigger emphasis on comedy in Left 4 Dead 2. I mean, we are
Yeah.
kind of talking ahead to the next episode because we're going to break up the podcast when we played all of the Left 4 Dead 2 levels. Um, but I think we've both played a lot of the Left 4 Dead 2, enough that I remember a lot of things.
Yeah.
So we can talk kind of generally about. And it is interesting going back and even playing the Left 4 Dead 1 stuff because I wasn't even thinking about that when we picked the game. I was like, oh yeah, Left 4 Dead 2. And I was just thinking about all the Left 4 Dead 2 content and like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, there's some levels that were in Left 4 Dead 1. I don't think I've ever actually fully played all of them, which was
Yeah.
interesting to do.
Yeah. But yeah, on the topic of the special infected that are in Left 4 Dead or from Left 4 Dead 2 originally, but appear in the Left 4 Dead 1 levels, I did actually feel like it was a little weird at times.
Yeah,
Not necessarily because
yeah.
it doesn't fit the gameplay, but it didn't fit the tone as well. I don't think.
You you see, it almost feels like we're playing a mod pack. Like they modded in the
Yeah.
levels from Left 4 Dead 1, or it doesn't feel like it. It does. It has this weird vibe where it feels like we're playing some sort of fan mod that like adds in Left 4 Dead 1 levels into the 2 engine, so it's a little bit like wonky, but like they're there, and it's like
Yeah.
still not, it's playable, but it's not like the ideal experience.
Yeah, I also found it played into the level design a little bit. Like the charger, the spacing of terrain in the Left 4 Dead 1 levels is very different. So I found that like when it often goes between very large open spaces and like these tight corridors. So in the large open spaces, I would just get charged like a mile away. Like I think it happened on stream a couple times too. And it's just like I can't help at all because they're just so far away. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then yeah, obviously in the corridors, it's just you're instantly getting pinned to a wall.
Yeah, did you, so overall, like, did you have fun on replay? Like, what was your feelings toward the game?
Yeah, I think I had fun. I huh. I think the funny thing about these games is that it's not always about the game. Sometimes it's about the people you play with. But I do think that the base game itself was also reasonably fun on the playthrough.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if I was to play this game with bots single player, it would be a slog and really
Yeah,
boring, to be honest, especially after playing it so many times.
yeah, one hundred
I think a
percent.
lot of the fun was playing with you and then having our friends join in, and then also the randoms and seeing what they would do,
Yeah,
and like and just like people blowing up each other, and like it was a lot of fun. And yeah, it would be a very different experience if you were playing the single player.
hmm,
And I do think I had fun. I was kind of getting bored in Left 4 Dead 1 toward the later half because it was
yeah,
dragging on. And those, I don't think they needed those two additional DLC levels. Especially one of them we didn't even finish because we got to the
yeah,
final assault on advanced mode and it kept spawning tanks and we were dying and it was just taking out like a long time. It's like,
yeah.
all right, we got the picture here.
I did feel like the quality dipped as it went on longer a little bit. Like starting with No Mercy, I I felt like the first part where you're going down the apartment was kind of mad, but after that, I think it was all right. I think the
Yeah, I think
finale
I
was
think
decent
it's
as well.
I think No Mercy was probably the strongest level of
Yeah.
the first set of levels. I replayed No Mercy on versus mode
Hmm.
during this time, and man, I still enjoy versus mode. I will say, you didn't play any versus mode, right? When we were playing.
No, but I've played plenty of verses before.
Yeah. I guess I'll briefly touch on my experiences with versus mode on the Left 4 Dead 1 map. There are still people playing, and I was
Hmm.
playing with three or two friends. So we had a three man and we had a random person on our team. Now what happened is we got into the game and everyone immediately chose infected besides us, so we were the survivors. So there was a 4v3 and we got destroyed at first because we had a bot and it didn't
Hmm.
do anything. Then people were talking super trash in the chat. Like everyone was tilted and talking trash. And then at one point, the person on the infected team said their team was bad, and then they joined our team as the survivors. And because we were three people with communication, we like just destroyed the
Yeah.
infected team. So my teammate and the infected team were literally just yelling at each other in text chat the entire game. And then there was a revolving door of people leaving and joining, and everyone was angry. And we were having fun, but we were winning.
Yeah.
And I was getting, when we were losing at the beginning, we were getting pretty tilted. And th- that game, it is either you're stomping or getting stomped, and if you're losing, it is the most rage inducing thing of all time. But if you're winning,
Yeah,
it's fun.
definitely.
It is like a volatile game mode, and you're
Yeah.
playing it for like an hour too because you're playing the campaign twice.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was something.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess controlling special infected. I actually thought the AI on the special infected was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. Like the boomers, I found a lot they would like hide around corners and stuff like that. Sometimes they would do a little cheeky like peek out because I don't know, maybe they think you're gonna walk up, or maybe it's just them making sure you can actually see them, so it doesn't feel completely cheap. But
Mhm.
they did some pretty cool stuff.
So
Lots
we
of
play
lots of
these
stealth.
levels on advanced as well, which is what like it's not the hardest difficulty, but it's like it's harder than normal basically.
Yeah.
And normal was way too easy. We were just sleepwalking through it. Advanced, we died a couple times. It actually felt like a decent challenge in a
Yeah.
way, without being like too hard. But it really did feel like the AI were using some versus strategies where sometimes you'd get
Hmm.
smokered into like a spitter goo, like, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was intentional, especially at the beginning of the rounds. Remember
Oh
when
my
we would start
god.
a round and then get like four special infected spawning on
E-
us?
Every time it would be five. Five,
Yeah, it
like,
would be like the perfect
immediately.
combo.
Yeah. It was
And
crazy.
yeah, that was weird.
Hmm.
Maybe we should talk about the characters a little bit and our who we main in Left 4 Dead 1,
Man. Who
cuz
we
I always had
main.
a preference.
Yeah,
Here,
tell
I'll
them
give you
about your
my order.
preference, Matt.
I'll give you my order right here. I'm a Bill main for sure. I want to play as Bill if possible. I would say Francis is my number 2 pick. And then honestly it's kind of like a tie between Zoe and Lewis. I kind of like
Hmm.
them both anyway, but maybe Lewis as a preference over Zoe.
Hmm. Yeah, for me it's Lewis first. 'Cause he's funny businessman.
Who likes
Um,
pills according to YouTube.
yes, who very much likes pills. Uh, I think maybe it's Francis because he's stupid and he
I
can't
hate
read.
Francis. Yeah,
And he
And
make
he gets hit by a truck.
yeah, he gets run over by a truck and he death screams.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch the VOD on that one.
Man,
Our
yeah.
AI Francis died horribly at the end of every mission, basically.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Then
there was
it's
some
probably a
funny
tie between the
like
last two.
glitchy stuff that happened, and like I'm glad there was like really silly moments of just stupid things happening, like getting knocked off the
Hmm.
roof by tanks, and like just dumb physics.
And I remember that part where like it was you and the two AI ahead of me. I walk up, the tank has already thrown his rock like a full second ago, and the rock just nails me in the head. It's nowhere near anybody else. Like it predicted my peak.
Yeah, those were. I mean, honestly, the moments when we were failing were probably the best moments because it was just funny.
Hmm.
Things like I was about to make a jump, and I'm like, okay, guys, I'm about to make this jump, and like as soon as I'm about to make the jump, a smoker grabs me and like pulls me off the roof into a pit of zombies. It's like, are you like this exact moment? It was just yeah, that was fun. I liked that.
Mm.
Um, man,
Oh, this is interesting. Apparently, I didn't know Crash Course was DLC.
that was also DLC.
Yeah, they made it after the fact to bridge the gap between No Mercy and Death Toll.
So in the original Left 4 Dead, was there only like 4 campaigns?
Yeah, you can actually tell the
Wow.
DLC campaigns because they only have 2 or 3 parts. The the base ones all have 5, I believe. At least in Left 4 Dead 1.
Maybe that's why I kind of felt bloated because we had these like extra DLC campaigns that kind of dragged it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, a DLC campaign is probably just going to be more gameplay, less about like adding to the story. Even though I guess the Last Stand or whatever the last DLC adds to the lore
Sacrifice. Yeah.
or the sacrifice.
I think the
Spoilers
Last
for
Stand
Left 4
was just
Dead
meant to
One.
be hard.
Yeah,
I
spoilers.
legitimately don't think it was meant to add anything else.
Rest in peace, Bill, the smoker,
Rip
the
and
boomer who's
pepperoni's
a
Bill.
smoker. Yeah, pour one out for Bill.
Yep.
So I think I kind of got the personality of all these characters, like of the Left 4 Dead 1 crew, exclusively from like YouTube meme video content.
Yeah.
Having replayed this now, it almost like I think I felt like I was waiting for characters to be like, "Oh, Lewis likes pills, ha ha ha," from like YouTube videos. But then they were kind of more grounded. They were still saying some goofy things, like Francis hates everything. He like hates walking upstairs, and he hates apparently living to see the end of Left 4 Dead
Yeah.
campaign. But it was a lot of like they were just kind of being normal and they weren't talking, and there was also like not a lot of music, so we were like kind of in silence, just like
Yeah, pretty
shooting
much.
zombies a lot.
That is something that I actually hadn't thought about. Is most of the music is it the music generally cues something. It's not there's no just ambient music. Like there's the tank song. There's a theme for when a horde's about to come or something like that. There's the witch noises. Oh my god! Actually,
Hmm.
we have to talk about the witches because there were some insane ones.
Were witches in Left 4 Dead originally, or just
Yeah,
in two?
yeah, they were. Yeah,
Okay,
but
yeah, because every time we
uh,
saw a witch, it would kill you.
yeah, because so we would always be in these like really tight corridors, and there'd just be a witch sitting in there. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Die? And
Well,
most of the time, I would just die.
I'm glad you kind of knew what to do though, because you're like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna use the shotgun here. Like you remember the strats to like, all right, I
yeah,
gotta headshot the witch with the auto shotgun, and then I'm like, I wouldn't even have touched it. I'm like, all right, well, let's just creep on by. I
yeah,
will say though, every single time, even if you didn't startle the witch, even if I like walked on her toe, she would just immediately look at you and be like, "Ah, you're done.
yeah,
You're dead."
yeah. It'd be like we'd be going past it like one by one, and then you'd go after me. You'd step a little too close, and it just turn around and go at me.
I just think like I don't know, looking back at things like that, like oh that was a cool though having a witch kind of breaks up the gameplay a little bit. It feels like Left 4 Dead the Left 4 Dead 1 maps were kind of samey and like
Hmm.
the gameplay got kind of monotonous.
Yeah. It makes you slow down your gameplay a lot, whereas Left 4 Dead's
Mhm.
normally a really fast paced game, especially for the zombie genre.
I think Left 4 Dead 2 does a lot more spectacle.
Hmm.
That's kind of what was throwing me off. Like we'll get to
Yes.
that. Like every stage is some sort of giant spectacle and Left 4 Dead 1 is a lot of like, okay, we're in a building, radio in and stand here for 10 minutes and defend. It's like they do that in Left 4 Dead 2, but they have some sort of theme and like some gimmick.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of nice they just included Left 4 Dead 1 levels anyway, just
Hmm.
for people who didn't experience it. But I don't think they're the strongest or like most remembered levels. And if anyone's
Yeah.
nostalgic, I think they're probably more nostalgic for the characters than the
Yeah.
levels themselves.
I do think also, to be fair, when the game first came out, they weren't comparing it to Left 4 Dead 2, naturally. So we
Well, yeah,
have, yeah, our view of it is a little bit skewed because we've played Left 4 Dead 2, and also the horror slash zombie genre was a little bit different back then, so there weren't as many games like this.
and honestly, it's just I kind of see the Left 4 Dead 1 campaign as just like a bonus addition
Hmm.
to the game, and it's nice. It's like they didn't have to put it in, but it did bulk out the level count a lot, and it's nice. It's nice to have them. I don't think I would prefer to play them over the Left 4 Dead 2 levels later. I mean, we'll figure out how we feel about those Left 4 Dead 2 levels when we play them next.
Yeah,
But I have a feeling that yeah, I will be enjoying those more because
yeah,
I'm looking at the level list and it's like it's hard to even talk about them because let's go through it real quick. Where it's like No Mercy. Okay, there's a hospital. That's cool. Then there's other stuff that happens.
yeah.
And then the next thing I really remember is you're on a runway. That was another set piece.
Yeah, I remember Crash Course. There was the crashed helicopter that we were defending near at the end. Looking at some of these section names, by the way, some of these are so like dull. Like just the
Dead air.
alleys, and it's a bunch of alleys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Walking down the alleyway. I don't know. It is maybe Left 4 Dead 2 spoiled me for Left 4 Dead 1's levels, but
maybe.
yeah, I got this feeling throughout playing that it was getting a little boring, but also I've played so much Left 4 Dead 2 that it's like whatever. And I think nowadays in the genre of four-player co-op shooter whatever, there's so many jingling key mechanics that they like put in front of your face to keep you engaged like in Vermintide. What is it, like Warhammer Vermintide or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, the 1 and 2, it's a similar style of game where you're four people, but that game has classes and you level up and you have weapons and you have this like you mentioned how this game's almost like a roguelike. It kind of did turn into more of a roguelike where you
Hmm.
have this constant progression, and you can grind for better stuff, and you get these drops, and it feels like there's more reason to be replaying missions, and you're getting better and new stuff every time. Whereas this game is like, okay, there's the only reason we're playing this is just for the fun of playing it. You know what I mean? There's no progression,
Hmm.
which is kind of why I found versus to be a little more interesting. Because versus, you're never it's kind of evergreen content where it's like you never know what you're gonna get, or
Yeah.
is that what it's called? Where it's like, what's the content where it's just like an infinite content treadmill? That it's like any
Hmm.
kind of like a Rocket League or like a shooter or something like that.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, naturally PvP has a lot more variance than PvE because obviously you're playing against humans and the things they're doing aren't predetermined. So they could theoretically do an infinite amount of things to you, and you have an infinite amount of responses, and you just end up playing more because you're experiencing more different game states.
Yeah, I always find that. I really like the asymmetrical multiplayer in games, or it kind of reminds me of like a Dark Souls invasion, or any of
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. I always enjoyed playing as the special infected, probably more than the survivors, and doing all that stuff. And I always thought that was fun, and I probably clocked a lot more hours in that than even doing the regular campaigns.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Dark Souls like invasion mechanic took some inspiration from like versus in Left 4 Dead. So that's a
It
decent
would
amount of similarities.
it would be interesting to see what the first example of asymmetric multiplayer in gaming was.
Hmm.
I mean, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I mean, Left 4 Dead is pretty early on. I could see that being something because you do have that infected versus regular mode, which I think playing as an enemy like that in any game is has always been cool. And there's some Gmod mods, like there's like a zombie survival thing where it's the similar where there's survivors versus zombies and stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
think that's always been compelling to play. I don't know, just and also PvP too. You get that like thrill of getting someone, and I
Hmm.
think a lot of people probably find that in that game that I always want to call Dying Light, but is Dead by Daylight. The game Dead by Daylight, which I'm too afraid to start playing because it's been
Oh
out for
man,
so long.
yeah, yeah. That game is it looks great, but
Hmm.
God, I feel like there's so much depth there, and I don't know. I played it with a friend before for fun, and I was just sitting here as a survivor. Like, I feel like there's so many things I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not, and I feel kind of useless because of it.
Yeah, that's one of those games that I think would give me anxiety because I would be if I was playing the killer, I would be like, oh my god, these people are all just like destroying me. Well,
Yeah, they're
actually,
giving me the slip.
yeah, there are certain games where I think like versus Saxton Hale in TF2, which is like a modded game mode, where you have in the asymmetrical multiplayer like world, if you get to be the cool big boss enemy, which is usually the one versus every like there's did Call of Duty did it too, where it's like there's like a juggernaut or something where it's like one person gets chosen
Oh
to be
yeah,
super strong and then everyone fights that person.
yeah.
um if it was one of those games where it was like, okay, you have a 1 in 25 chance of being the cool strong thing this round,
Hmm.
like or you're like waiting it out, like I think I would panic because I'm like, oh, it's finally my turn to be the strong thing, and it's like I don't know what to do, and then I would like
Yeah,
panic, and then I would, if I died too quickly, I would think the people are like, man, this guy sucks, and then I would be like, no.
yeah. So actually,
um
technically, Halo 3 did asymmetrical multiplayer before Left 4 Dead 2 because of infection.
oh,
It
that's a
was
fun game
available
mode
on
too.
launch. Yeah, when you
I,
brought up
I
the Juggernaut thing, I thought of that. I'm like, wait a minute, when did they first do infection?
Yeah, that could be an interesting thing to look up and look into if you want to do a little
Hmm.
research on that while we do that. I mean, I would say light research, so we're not like
Yeah,
just
I'll
sitting
search
here.
first asymmetrical multiplayer, and if I don't get any results, I'll call it a day.
Yeah, I'd be very interested. It's probably some like random DOS game where it's like Elf Bowling was the first game where you could play as an elf.
Uh,
But yeah, well, while you look that up, I'm kind of just looking at Left 4 Dead 1 stuff. I mean, weapons. I don't know about you, but like the weapons choices, I don't think I ever really used melee weapons at all when we were playing. I
Hmm.
used them a lot more when I played this before. I picked one up and it just kind of didn't really do it for me.
Hmm.
And it almost feels like every melee weapon swings kind of the same. I know they're different, but they're
They have
not
the same
that.
hitboxes, I
Yeah,
believe.
it's kind of like, I don't really care. I think it was more funny as a kid being like, oh, I get a frying pan and get to hit things with it.
Hmm.
But
All right,
nowadays, I'm
so
like, just give me dual guns.
on my asymmetrical multiplayer journey, I found a Wikipedia list of asymmetrical multiplayer video games, but it's in alphabetical order.
Oh,
Right off the bat, the oldest one I saw was Aliens versus Predator in 1999.
oh, okay. Where you probably get to play as either the alien and or the predator.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
Uh,
Battlefront kind of is asymmetrical because in the Battlefront games, uh, if you're playing the droids, like they had completely different,
yeah.
they had like completely different characters than some of the other things.
Yeah, it seems like geez, this genre blew up in the in the mid 2000s actually.
Well,
Jeez.
Evolve was supposed to be like the big asymmetrical
Yeah,
multiplayer game, but they got too greedy. They flew too close to the sun, and they were like, "Oh,
yeah.
we're gonna have day one $900 DLC," and then just no one played it.
Mhm.
Man, that sucks.
Uh,
I was hyped for Evolve too, and that I just never really played it.
yeah, I'm looking through all these. It seems like Aliens versus Predator is the first one that's listed.
Hmm.
And all the other ones are like mid 2000s to now.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess getting back to the Left 4 Dead 1 experience,
Mhm.
maybe just we should think about any of the key things to talk about. I guess weapons, which we can talk about later too. I found myself using the SMG or the rifles. The shotguns I didn't really vibe with all that much. I feel like they probably
Mhm.
have their use in for fighting. In versus
Yeah.
mode, actually, I picked up the shotguns a little bit more to fight special infected. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
the guns
it's
didn't really feel that good to use, to be honest.
yeah, it's generally you either get an AR or a shotgun or an auto shotgun pretty much. But yeah, I agree. The guns didn't feel great. That's part of why that's part of why I use so many mods to be honest. So like I think the animations aren't bad, but they kind of start to show their age a little,
Yeah.
and the guns don't have much in this in the department of feedback besides just weapon spread.
Now I don't know if you feel the same way, but when a game has guns that you can't aim down sights in, I feel like a weird. I It feels like the guns are floatier or something. There feels like there's less weight behind it, and
Hmm.
I kind of feel that way with Counter Strike as well, because like the AK, you just have this fixed perspective, and
Yeah,
it's just like I don't know. There's like this thing where if I can't aim down the sights, it feels like a fake gun, and it just feels off to me. And yeah,
yeah,
it was it. The guns were they were there. They're not that interesting.
yeah. I understand what you mean when you say that. It's kind of an animation thing because it's you're getting the perspective of you're essentially getting the gun's perspective, so it's a lot easier to see all the details about it and like obviously the recoil and things like that. So it feels more real, I guess.
Hmm. And then I guess in general, just well, I guess one of the fun things was there's the voice lines. So in the game, there's like a radial wheel of voice lines you can do, and I guess their intention was to have people who don't have voice chat be able to call out things like "There's a boomer over here," or "Look over here," or "Follow me." But basically, the only use case I found was just spamming like screams. There's like a dedicated scream button where you can just
Hmm.
scream over and over again with each character, which I found fun. That is an aspect I enjoyed.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and honestly, just like I think little moments like that where it's player driven is the most fun. You find the fun from your interactions with other players and like goofing around rather than I think the game itself. It almost feels like a catalyst for you to just hang out with your friends or talk to other people
Hmm.
online rather than like I think the staying power or the replayability of it is the social aspect
Hmm.
rather than like I would not play this game by myself with bots. It wouldn't be fun. Like period.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is interesting to say about this game because I did go like while we were playing it, since we played it in kind of like a binge setting where we played like multiple campaigns. I
Hmm.
did want to stop if I wasn't trying to beat the game for the podcast. I would have played maybe one campaign, then taken a break, and then come back to it. I got
Hmm.
a little burnt out, but then when I wasn't playing it, I was like, yeah, maybe I should go do a couple campaigns by myself. That was kind of fun. Like I got that itch to come back.
Yeah, I think the campaigns were meant to be a little more spaced out than what you would expect nowadays. Like, I don't think the game was necessarily meant to be binged. I think it's the kind of thing where you play one campaign, then you put it down for the night or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Left 4 Dead, and I think I used it like this too, where it's like, hey, you guys want to play like Left 4 Dead right now, and then you get all your friends on, you play like all around, you're like, all right, cool, that was fun, let's play something else.
Yeah.
Instead of like, all right, we're gonna have a dedicated Left 4 Dead, we're gonna go through all these. Maybe you could find fun in that if you had a full team and you were doing one of the harder realism difficulties. I think there's
Hmm.
probably a level of enjoyment from doing the strategy in those harder difficulties, which we did not delve into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how well balanced those difficulties are, or realism, or some of the other side game modes.
Yeah, it seems
Uh,
like, from what I understand, I don't think people turn up the difficulty as much and they just go to realism instead, maybe?
mhm.
Because I don't feel like there are many people playing like expert and stuff.
Yeah, when we were playing normal, we would get people join our lobby. When we played advanced, people rare. I think one person joined our lobby
Yeah.
naturally, and then on the sacrifice, someone who was using like some sort of cheat engine joined and was flying around and
Hmm.
just like completed the level for us, which was definitely interesting. Old Valve games with their security exploits,
Yeah.
always a cool thing to see, I guess. I actually encountered two cheaters when playing. There was a cheater in versus mode as well,
Oh
who
no,
was speed hacking, but we still beat them, which is hilarious.
that
We
is
like
pretty
destroyed
funny.
them, but yeah, people were just being very cool and using weird hacks, and it's probably not hard to
Hmm.
do that in a game that's like old as Left 4 Dead 2. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Left 4 Dead 2
Part one,
pertaining to Left 4 Dead. Yeah, pertaining to the Left 4 Dead 1 maps.
Left 4 Dead 2 1.
Yes, Left 4 Dead 2 1. Do you have anything else to talk about from our Left 4 Dead 2 1 experience?
Um, The Last Stand sucks.
Yeah, and actually, I just realized we didn't even we didn't even like describe any of the special infected, and also I don't think we really described what the game is or what you're doing in the game. But I think we assume
People know
if you're
Left 4
listening
Dead.
to this, you know. But actually, it would be kind of interesting to talk about the special infected a little bit and how they like play, and I think there's kind of a cool like balance of all the different special infected, although the jockey
Hmm.
is kind of weird.
I
It's like
think that,
not, I don't know. The
yeah, the
jockey is
jockey
not
does
it.
stick out a little bit
Yeah.
because it's like the hunter, but it moves. So, and it like has a smaller hitbox. It's kind of wonky. I think that
Yeah,
maybe the
and
hunter does more damage, but
well,
still,
the hunter does a lot more damage and like
yeah.
pins you. In versus, the jockey is kind of awful to play as, but it leads to interesting things where you can move people off of cliffs,
Hmm.
which I saw happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it is a little bit of a shame that the Left 4 Dead 1 maps, like you said, have the Left 4 Dead 2 enemies in them because it feels like they weren't balanced around that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you got your smoker with the tongue. That's a classic moment. The spitter.
Yeah.
And, I would honestly like to have seen more special infected or something like that. Some sort of variety. And I think that's what
I
Back for Blood tried to do. as one of the things. Like they tried to address all
Hmm.
these like variety things, but like then I guess a lot of people didn't like that, and maybe Back for Blood will be a game that turns around and everyone loves it one day. Maybe it just needs a
Maybe.
couple updates.
What I actually realized is there are one, two, three, four. There's six special infected, then two like bosses essentially, like the tank and the witch. Maybe the problem is that we just ran into them too often. Like maybe they actually just do spawn too much on advanced.
They're just not that special, I guess.
Yeah,
They're
maybe we just got maybe we like got a little bit burnt out on them because we just literally see them too much, so it doesn't feel like there's variety because we always just have them all running at us.
Well, I think in versus mode, it's a thrill kind of because it's like, oh, they're trying
Hmm.
to combo me. They're actually really, it's actually really interesting how they're set up for versus because it's almost like when you're playing the infected, you're trying to get a combo to incapacitate. You
Hmm.
could win by killing all the survivors, which is way harder, or all you have to do is incapacitate all of them, which means if you use your tongue as smoker, if you jump on someone as hunter, if you jump on someone as jockey, and you pin someone with charger all at the same time, they instantly lose. And
Yeah,
I think that is pretty cool.
yeah, that's essentially checkmate. Like
Yeah,
because
but in
nobody can shoot, so
actual
they're all just miserable.
yeah, and when the bots are controlling them though, that doesn't really happen that much. So it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. They're just kind of there, and sometimes a thing like a jockey, you'll see it, and it's like not even really a threat to you at all. You're just like, oh, I just
Hmm.
shot it. It's like, oh, jockey, and it's like already dead, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever. Maybe on harder difficulties. I have a feeling that the harder you go, the more like you just get one shot killed by everything, and it's probably not that
Yeah,
fun to play.
yeah, yeah. Like I felt like if I got tongued by a spitter and there were like five special infected, I'm just dead
Oh yeah,
because
you're
all the
just
special
done.
infected do five. I don't know how much damage the spitter actually does, like per second. Even if I assume it's five, right? You have 4 seconds to get everything off of me.
I'm just looking at this right now on the wiki page about campaigns, and apparently the DLC maps, because I didn't realize they were DLC. They were added for free on the Steam release, but you had to buy them on the Xbox.
Hmm.
Which apparently, except for Last Stand, which was apparently made free as well for some reason on Xbox. That is weird that they were getting DLC, but then they just decided to stop. Like, it is kind of a weird thing, right? Because it feels like there could have been a whole additional campaign. They just kind of were like, all right, we did these, we're done. Let's just not work on it ever again.
Hmm.
And today, I don't think I mean, I guess we see with Back for Blood. Like, I don't think today you can release a game like this. This would be a game as a service game where it would be like an infinite. We're gonna keep adding things kind of game. And I guess that's why people
Yeah.
maybe don't like Back for Blood because it's probably set up in like it's basically what Left 4 Dead would be like if it was released today in terms of here's our weird monetization and here's our weird systems and here's our weird like I'm sure there's daily missions in that game,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Well, I think we'll save the rest of our talk for Left 4 Dead 2 Part 2 when we play maybe some of the other weird game modes and also play the Left 4 Dead 2 maps.
Hmm.
But now we're in the question segment of the stream. If you have any questions, email us at hyeppodcast@gmail.com. That is the hyep podcast@gmail.com. We do not have any specific questions, I don't think, this week. I could check the Discord because I think there was actually some questions because people
Mayhaps.
did put some questions in the Discord, but I think we could also just have take this opportunity to talk about whatever we want and or what we are doing. Oh god, Jack and Daxter. Did you ever play Jack and Daxter or any of those
Yes,
games?
that was. I feel like everybody as a really little kid, at least around our age, either played Jack and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot, Ratchet and Clank, or Sly Cooper,
Yep.
or multiple of them sometimes. But
Yeah.
I was Jack and Daxter was the game I played. It was mostly my brother playing, and he would let me pretend I was playing with an unplugged controller.
Oh yeah, the
But
classic little
yeah,
brother mode.
yeah, the little brother mode.
So you played Jack 1, like the first one?
Yeah, I played the first one, and then we had the second one. I don't think we got very far in it though, because we got stuck on like the first level.
Hmm.
I think it was. I actually think it was a bug. I think the first time you're supposed to transform into Dark Jack or whatever, it just didn't work, and it was like
So
essential to complete the level.
I had like some sort of I have vague child fever memories. You know how you have like these like vague memories of things you think happened when you were a
Yeah.
kid? I have one of those of going over someone. It might have been a cousin or a friend. It must have been like someone's friend of a friend's house, and they had Jack 1, and I was like, "This game looks awesome! Like this is the coolest game ever." And again, like you were right on the money. I was a Sly Cooper kid. I played Sly 1 and 3, and then later
Hmm.
2, which is weird. I played those in a weird order.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I saw him playing it, and I'm like, this looks great. And then I never really I don't think I knew what the game was called, so it was one of those games where you couldn't find because you just didn't know what it was called, and you couldn't just look it up online
Yeah.
back then. And yeah, I always wanted it, and then eventually I think my grandma bought me Jack 3, which is
Hmm.
rated T because Jack the Jack games as they went on got edgier and edgier for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Jack 2. They had Dark Jack. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh yeah, and then Jack 3 he's like even darker. It's crazy. Um Jack 3 is really weird. There's like a vehicle segments or
Yeah.
something.
Isn't it just like Mad Max?
I don't know because I vaguely remember it because I played Jack 3 in front of my grandma, and I think he said like, let's get this damn like dark mode, and then she was like, they're saying damn in it. I gotta
Yeah.
return this game.
Yeah. Right. I'm
Yeah.
sending you the cover. This is literally Mad Max. It's literally
Oh
Mad
god.
Max. What?
And then there was like some Jack game that was like Jack Racing, and it was like in the
Yeah.
universe of the Mad Max, but it was
Jack
like yeah,
X
it was weird.
Combat Racing. Then there was the
See,
Daxter spin-off, which I actually had for
yeah,
PSP.
I played that. I played
I also got
Daxter on
stuck.
PSP.
I also got stuck in that one very early.
I actually beat that one. Yeah. No, it was funny because those games were so edgy for me as a kid because they would say
Yeah.
like "damn" and they would make like innuendo, and I was like, "Oh my god, should I be playing this?" It's like the most tame thing in the world, but
Hmm.
yeah, no, um, I should have been playing Jack 1. There's nothing offensive that well, there's nothing that offensive in Jack 1. That game is a lot more for kids, I think. Then it
Hmm.
became like Jack with a
Jack was
gun.
also like a kid at the time. Like looking at the
Yeah.
cover, like this is an infant.
Oh man. Yeah,
Jack and Daxter, the precursor legacy.
I was a Sly Cooper kid for sure. I played the first one, and I streamed it recently, and that game holds up. That game is really good.
They made a PC port of the first Jack and Daxter game this year.
They did? Is it on Steam? I'll buy it
I
and
don't
play it right
know.
now.
It was
Well,
made by
not right now.
fans apparently,
Oh,
according to the wiki.
uh,
Yeah, I don't know
fan
about
made
that.
fan made ports are interesting
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna
it's
look
like
it up.
I don't know.
Jack and Daxter PC port. Jack and Daxter got a PC port. Dot dot dot, and it's incredible.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't argue with that.
The top Reddit post: Jack and Daxter gets an unofficial PC port. Jack 2 and 3 are next.
Oh,
Why
that's
does it?
cool.
Why does it sound like a threat?
And they're next. Um, Jack has a really weird emulation thing.
Hmm.
So if you try to emulate those games, there is something about their eyeballs. So I don't know what technology they use to render the character's eyes, but they use
Hmm.
some sort of technology where in the emulator their eyeballs are just white pupil. Like there's no eyeball or there's no iris or anything. It's just a white like creepypasta eye. So all the characters are talking to each other, and you have like Daxter with like creepy pasta white eyes just staring at you, and it feels like you're playing a
Hmm.
haunted game. Like it doesn't feel good to be playing.
Oh yeah, I looked
It
it up.
is
Some of the
genuinely
eyes are just
unsettling,
pitch black.
or like white. Yeah, it is
Yeah, Jesus
unsettling. I don't like
Christ.
it. Yeah, have you ever had experiences like that where you're playing a game and it's like glitched out? Actually, before I even ask this question, Jack has that stupid thing that I have this fear. I don't know if you shared this, but in Jack, if you swim in the ocean and go far away, a giant fish will jump out of the water and eat you.
Oh, it's one
And
of
it's
those.
stuff like that scared the hell out of me. And like I was there was a several games that were doing that for some reason where Sony's got a problem where you would swim far enough away and something would kill you out of bounds, and that would freak me out. And I know a lot of games that is like a common fear a lot of people had from games like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Half
don't think
Life
it's
Two
an
does that too.
uncommon. Yeah, it's not an uncommon childhood fear.
Yeah, just being in the ocean. Plus, you're in the ocean too, and you're like, "Oh, this is cool,
Yeah.
cool," and then you just instantly die. It's like
I
terrifying.
actually used to be afraid of swimming in like any any like ocean or lake or anything because I didn't want fish to touch me.
What in real life?
Yeah. I also remember I went to one summer camp and like there were like apparently a bunch of snapping turtles in the lake and one day one just jumped out onto like the dock and just sat there and just stared at everybody.
Yeah, dude, I
It's
don't like the
crazy.
ocean either. Like I don't like swimming in the ocean. I've done it a handful of times. I'm like almost dying every time I go in the ocean. First of all, because
Yeah.
half the time, like when I was a kid, there's just like giant waves, and then you just get like smacked in the face. And
Yeah.
one time I was swimming, and there was a hurricane that was passing in the area, so the waves were like massive waves, and the undertow would like drag you out to sea, and it
Hmm.
was like tossing people around, and it was fun, but you had to dive into the waves to not get hit. So you have to dive, and I didn't realize that at first. So I took a wave, like the crash of the wave, to my face, which knocked me backwards. I did a somersault up the beach, which was all like rocky sand, like ripped all my back up with like cuts or whatever, and I got like tumbled up the shore and was like got the wind knocked out of me basically, and I'm like, oh, I could have just died. That was
God,
cool.
that wave hit you like a Dragon Ball Z character.
Oh yeah, no, it was like, and people were like getting knocked out left and right, and even trying to leave the ocean because the undertow would pull you back in. Like it was hard to even get out. Like
Hmm.
we shouldn't have been swimming
Damn.
first of all,
Damn, the
and then
ocean
I
was
was
throwing hands.
yeah, and after that I was like, yeah, I don't want to swim in the ocean, and this was like kind of a recent development, but before then even I just don't want to like be walking. Maybe if I wore like swim shoes or something, I don't want to be walking like you said and step on like slimy stuff.
Yeah.
Or in my eyes, I'm like, I don't. What if I step on like a needle or something, a
Yeah,
hypodermic
like some
needle?
random needle that somebody just threw into the
Yeah,
ocean.
no, I'm good. I'll just sit on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah, the
I'm
ocean is pretty
way good.
gross.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't. I mean, I kind of like sitting on the sand at the beach, but
Yeah.
I really don't like. Maybe if the water was clear, I don't like going in murky water. You can't see what's underneath you. Yeah, it
Yeah, honestly,
freaks me
I
out.
was a little glad that COVID killed going to the beach.
Well, you'd think that, but like, I was at the beach. It was pretty funny. I was at a beach that was right next to an airport,
Oh my
so
god.
the airport was just there was planes taking off constantly and landing, and just right next to the beach. It
This
was so
sounds
weird.
terrible.
Yeah, it was something. Oh man,
Oh man.
yeah, no, that I don't like. The childhood. Have you seen those childhood trauma videos like on YouTube where people go through all their like things that gave like they
Oh
scared
yeah.
them as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you have anything like that that you can like think of off the top of your head where it's just like just some weird thing you were scared of? Actually, I have one. Um.
I had a really irrational fear of aliens because of those like segments Cartoon Network would do.
Oh, with the like the Magoozy segments or the Toonami one.
I don't know. I think the Magoozy ones.
Magoozy has aliens, which I'm glad I was able to pull that name out of
Or
my
maybe it was like
somewhere.
I don't know, like during like October, maybe they just did like a week where it was like aliens took over Cartoon Network or something.
Oh
Maybe it was
God,
something like that.
you just brought up a second memory. I was gonna say
Yeah.
one of them, but you just brought up another one, and I did this on stream for a Halloween stream. There was a Nickelodeon Flash game on the Nickelodeon website. I think it's called Black Licorice. You should Google it, by the way.
What?
Um, it is a
Black
game. Everyone at home, Google Black. I think it's Black Licorice
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon Flash game. Is
Oh
that
my
what it's
god.
called? Yeah. So it's a Flash game, and I was be me, a small child playing Flash games for Halloween in on a Nickelodeon website. And the Flash game is you have a bunch of candy, and there's children who are actual human children's faces put on cartoon characters, and they're like, "Give me candy, please," and you give them a a lollipop or something, and you have one piece of black licorice in
Oh
your
my
bin,
god.
and if you give a child black licorice, they're like, "Black licorice, I don't like black," and they like do like a demonic voice, and their face gets like turned into like demonic, and they just like
Oh
do like
my
kind of a screamer,
god.
and
I'm
it
watching a
freaked
video
me
of it.
out so bad. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, because it's like a
What
screamer
the
for
hell?
children, and it scared the shit out of me. It literally was like
Oh
I had to
my
like turn the
god.
laptop off. That like it freaked me out so bad.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I still think about it now.
Yeah, that
It's
that
it
is
is
actually terrifying
yeah,
now that I'm
and
watching it.
especially being a kid, it was very
Oh
scary.
my. There's this clip of like
Um,
this guy like closes his door and then like one of the kids tries to get into the house through like the mail door or whatever you call it.
oh, the mail slot. Well, I'm glad it traumatized you now too.
God,
Um,
man. Why would they show this to children?
I should make one of those childhood trauma videos. That would actually be kind of fun.
My god.
I I also was afraid of for some reason I was afraid of Augustus Gloop getting stuck in the tube in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka. You know he gets like
Oh
stuck in the
man.
tube. I would have to
Yeah.
leave the room when that happened
Yeah,
because I
I
knew
know
it was
what you mean.
coming, and I don't know what. Maybe it's like a claustrophobia thing. Like I literally had to leave the room. I can't watch this. It's too scary. I don't know why. That was a weird one that I remember.
Man.
Uh, yawn real quick. Yawning ASMR for the podcast.
Yeah, now I think
Um,
about it, that like when people talk about how SpongeBob randomly has those like really disturbing frames, and it's like, wow, it's crazy. How do they show this to children? Now I'm really thinking about this. Not that far from what they exposed us to before. Some people are just messed up and want to show weird stuff to children. Like
oh
what?
man. Oh, one. I have another one that was a little bit later and still childhood e. In Metal Gear Solid 2. This is a spoiler for Metal Gear Solid 2, by the way. There's a part where, well, it doesn't have to be that spoilery. Well, there's a part where a character is revealed to be like this digital weird thing,
Hmm.
and so you'll have a character talking to you on the codec call, and all of a sudden their face turns into like a skeleton face, and they
Oh my
start saying
god,
really weird things. And I literally like, oh, my game's haunted. I'm like, that freaked me out really bad because I was not expecting it.
man.
And yeah, well, James, do you have any more? No, do you have any more things that freaked you out?
Nah, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Oh man, I'm just like now that I'm in that mind space, I'm just thinking of all these random things like that. They were just like, I don't like this.
Oh
Weird
god.
things. Weird. It was the weirdest things. Like those childhood trauma videos are so interesting because it's like when you watch other people's videos, you're like, how is that scary at all to you? But like everyone has their own weird thing that they got freaked out by.
Yeah, I would love to understand like the reason why all these TV childhood like TV channels do this.
Okay, just come up with weird like
Yeah, like,
nonsense to
it
make you
has
freak
to
out.
be intentional. There has to be like some marketing reason or like something. Like
Well,
like
I think
I don't know.
yeah, I think kids really like scary stuff, but scary stuff
Maybe.
that is like approachable, which is you see like Five Nights at Freddy's is so popular, and when I stream now, I've been streaming a lot more horror games because I've never played horror games and now I'm really getting into it. And I've been playing these horror games, and a lot of the viewership are like younger and all know about all these different horror games and are like, "Oh, play like Five Nights at Freddy's and all that stuff." I think
Hmm.
kids like getting scared by things that are kind of like they're not that creepy. It's creepy, and it's usually taking something like a something that you would typically associate with kids media and then making it creepy. Like I was playing a
Hmm.
Teletubby horror game the other day, and it's like take
Teletubby
something that is
horror
normally
game.
cute and make it kind of creepy, and then it's just like it draws in attention of kids. I don't know. Kids are attracted
Hmm.
to. I think human nature is to be attracted to like morbid stuff. Sometimes though, like true crime podcasts and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But I think maybe on that note we end the pod here. We don't want to go too over
Yes.
the podcast time. Um, So I've been Matt, aka Matt Fondude. You can find me on the Twitter for for however long Twitter remains to exist.
Oh yeah, that's
Uh,
give it a month.
I'm on the TikTok for however long that remains to
No,
exist
it's got a little bit
as
longer.
well,
Let's
unless it
be
gets
fair here.
banned.
Twitter's
Yeah, they're
on
talking about maybe banning it, but I don't
Twitter's
know if that
a
would
flaming
pass.
trash can right
Oh
now.
yeah, but I'm on the YouTube and all the other places. And James, where can we find more of you?
Yeah, James 04E on the Twitters, the YouTubes, uh, the Instagrams, all that stuff, all the social media platforms that will definitely exist 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna have a normal outro today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.